Today in our 2017 Honda Pilot, we'll be having a look at and installing the Derale Series 8000 plate fin transmission cooler kit, part number D13503. All right, here's what our transmission cooler looks like installed. Obviously we have our fascia off right now, but this is so you can get a good look at what it looks like on the vehicle installed. This transmission cooler is a great solution for Honda Pilot's lack of proper transmission cooling if you want to tow a trailer. Honda actually recommends installing an aftermarket transmission cooler if you want to tow a trailer with your Pilot. This Class 3 transmission cooler will help lower transmission temperature. By keeping the fluid cooler, it will also help prevent thinning of the fluid to allow it to do its proper lubrication job inside the transmission. You can increase transmission life, have firmer shifts, and not have to worry about causing a premature damage to your transmission and having a premature failure. Now, the great thing about this transmission cooler that I really like is it has this flange on it with holes that you can use to screw it into a secure mount on your bumper beam versus using the mounting rods that come with it and using those pushing through your AC condenser and radiator with a zip tie style fashion to hold it in place. I personally don't like using those because you can run the risk of actually putting a hole in the radiator or the condenser and having to replace those. Now that we've gone over some features, we'll show you how to get it installed. All right, first thing we need to do is remove this cover here over our radiator. To do that, just grab it, pull up on it, slide it forward, and remove it. Now we need to remove our intake tube right here. There's 4 plastic screws to hold it in place. Just use a Phillips screwdriver, unscrew them. The screws out, we can use a flathead screwdriver or a trim panel tool and pop out the clips. Then we'll just grab the intake tube, lift up and out. Now we have 7 10mm screws that we need to remove. Now we need to separate the upper portion of our fascia from our headlight assembly. To do that, just grab and pull. There's a clip further near the corner of it. To do that, we'll slide a plastic trim panel tool in and just start working our way towards it. And then pull back. Now we're unclipped from our headlights completely. Now in each wheel well, we will find 3 Phillips screws that we need to remove. It's the exact same, so whatever you do on one side, just repeat on the other. Now we have our wheel molding here. We'll just grab the lower edge of it here, pull back. This will reveal a screw that holds our fascia on right here. We'll remove that. Now we'll grab the edge of our fascia here and pull back. Okay, now underneath the vehicle, we have 4 10mm screws that hold our fascia on. We'll remove those. In front of each tire, we'll find 2 10mm screws. Remove those. As well as 2 push fasteners. You just use a trim panel tool or a flathead screwdriver. Pop out the center section and pull the whole thing out. Now since this is on one side of the vehicle, we'll repeat the same process on the other side. Okay, now there's little metal clips that hold our fascia in place. We need to pry up on those a little bit as we're pulling it back to let it come out. Use a flathead screwdriver for that. Okay, now with our fascia unclipped, we'll pull it back. We got our fog light here, pushing on the tab, pull down. And then we have another connector we can pull back and disconnect. Now once we have the fog light disconnected on the other side, we can remove the fascia from the vehicle and set it aside in a safe place where it won't get damaged. Okay, now we're going to remove the front section of our bumper beam. We have 3 14mm bolts on each side. Okay, have our bolts removed, grab it, and we'll slide it off the vehicle. Okay, now we're going to pull down this plastic section right here underneath our vehicle to gain access to our transmission cooler lines. We have a couple different fasteners here. We have a push pin fastener. We have a Phillips screw here, and then a 10mm over here. Now we can remove this all the way, or just fold it to the side and hold it out of the way of a bungee cord. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, this is the inside of our bumper beam now. This is the side that's facing towards our AC condenser and radiator. This is the top. I wrote top here on it with a paint marker for reference, so you know how we're doing this. We'll place it somewhat close to the middle here of our beam. We'll be using the existing holes in our transmission cooler to secure it to our bumper beam. But on the top side, we're going to have to drill a couple holes. So I'll mark those with our paint marker, and we'll drill out our holes with a drill bit. Okay, now we'll just use some self-tapping screws to secure it into place. You have to provide your own, but we do have some available on our website. So we'll get one started and start one in the opposite corner to make sure it'll stay centered. Okay, with that one tightened down, we'll tighten down the first one and then do the other two. We can reinstall our bumper beam. Okay, now we'll take the protected plug off our transmission cooler. We'll put a little lubricant on it. Transmission fluid will work the best for this. Now we'll take our transmission cooler hose. We will need more. You'll need 3/8 inch diameter hose. Just twist that on there. Okay, that's good. Now we'll slide on a clamp on our hose. Okay, we'll use a 1/4 inch socket and tighten this down. Okay, that's nice and snug and our hose won't come off. We'll do the same for the other one on the bottom. All right, we went ahead and routed our hoses along our bumper support here, securing it with a couple zip ties. Ran them through our plastic here and behind our radiator and into our engine bay. And here's where our two hoses ended up. Okay, on our vehicle, we have two transmission lines coming out of the transmission. The one down here furthest off to the driver's side of the vehicle, this is the line we're going to be working with. This is our return line to the transmission of the cooler fluid. We're going to take this clamp off here, slide it back along the hose. Now we will remove this line from the transmission. Sometimes these lines are glued in place, so if you just twist it a little bit with a pair of pliers, it'll help come loose. You can push it off with the pry bar. You'll slide a hose clamp over our hose. Doesn't matter which hose we use at this point. This is the hose from our transmission cooler that we installed, and we will slide that onto our fitting on the transmission. To make a little bit more room, we're going to remove this section of factory hose right here from our filter. All right, with that hose out of the way, we'll slide our hose onto the fitting for the transmission. We need to help twist it on a little bit to get it fully on. Okay, with that on, we'll now tighten up the clamp. Okay, now we have a nice solid connection there. Now our other hose, we'll measure off how much we're going to need to connect to our filter. Right there's gonna be good, and we'll cut off the excess. Make sure we put our clamp on the hose, and we'll reinstall the hose. Okay, now we'll tighten up our hose clamp. Okay, with our hoses all clamped down, we'll now secure up our hoses with like a zip tie or two so they don't hang down below the vehicle. Okay, we went ahead and started the engine and let it run, and we checked all of our connections to make sure there was no leak seen. We didn't have any leaks, so we're good to go ahead and button everything back up. You want to make sure you check your transmission fluid and fill accordingly with the proper fluid. Okay, now we'll reinstall our fascia. We'll want to make sure we plug in any electrical harnesses that we removed so all of our lights and sensors function properly. And that completes our look at and the installation of the Derale Series 8000 plate fin transmission cooler kit, part number D13503 on our 2017 Honda Pilot.
Click the link below to shop, learn more, or visit us at eTrailer.com.